The State of Israel requests the court to reject the request for the modification and indication of provisional measures submitted by the Republic of South Africa.
After well over 3 months of constant Israeli bombardment in Gaza, all eyes are on a courthouse than 3,000 kilometers away in the Netherlands.
رفعت جنوب افريقيا دعوى قضائية ضد اسرائيل امام محكمة العدل الدولي.
دعت وزيرة خارجية جنوب افريقيا غريس ناليدي باندورا
يتكون من 48 صفحة تقدمت به جنوب افريقيا امام محكمة العدل الدولية.
In the first quarter of the 21st century, humanity has witnessed many lawsuits.
We cannot ever have a situation where we say, this is your problem, you deal with it.
This is the story of one of the most important cases of our time. Lawyers, UN rapporteurs, politicians and journalists tell it in their own words. In 1948, the world was first introduced to the word apartheid.
Apartheid is an Afrikaans word. Afrikaans is a language which is derived from Dutch as a result of the country having been originally colonized by the Dutch East India Company in 1652. The term apartheid, literally translated into English, means separateness. The apartheid era begins in 1948 with the National Party's election victory.
Apartheid rejimi her açıdan beyaz ırkın üstünlüğünü ele alan bir rejimdir. Aslında sadece ırkçı rejim olarak alabileceğimiz bir durum değil, aynı zamanda dünyanın gelmiş geçmiş en kurumsal ırkçılığının yaşandığı bir rejim olarak ele alabiliriz.
We had a system where people were policies, entrenched systemic policies by a state to divide people based on race and then allocate different forms of resources but also oppress them.
Buradaki sistem şu şekilde işler. O dönemlerde beyazların girdiği birçok yere siyahlar giremezler. Her anlamda, hayatın her alanında farklılaştırılmış durumdalardır. Buna en önemli örneklerden bir tanesi şehircilik toplumun yaşadığı yerlerdir. Klasik bir Güney Afrika şehrinde baktığınız zaman merkezde beyazların, biraz dışında renklilerin, biraz daha dışında da siyahilerin mahallelerini görürüz. Bu mahalleler arasında herhangi bir bağ yoktur.
Many countries had cultural boycotts against South African artists. Many countries had academic boycotts against South African academics and institutions, some of whom actually supported the apartheid state and provided it with a theoretical basis for its oppression of black people.
I grew up in a home where it was absolutely prohibited to buy or eat any South African fruit during the apartheid time. My mother was an activist, and she said the boycott of every goods from South Africa is our duty. I didn't know what an apartheid state was, so she carefully explained it to me. That they are treating the white man different from the black man, the white woman different from the black woman, the white child different from the black child.
Early 1960s, we begin to have incidents like the Sharpeville massacre of 21st of March 1960, where 67 protesters are basically shot by the South African police. Nelson Mandela is beginning to realize that in the face of the new ruthless implementation of racial segregation, it will be necessary to move to a new stage of protest in South Africa.
As a result of protests, resistance and international pressure, the 46-year-old apartheid regime in South Africa collapsed in 1994. Although apartheid collapsed in South Africa, it still continues to exist in different parts of the world.
When the ANC comes to power, one of the people who is attending Nelson Mandela's inauguration in May 1994 is Yasser Arafat, and he's accorded a hero's welcome by many people in the crowd, and it's viewed as being a struggle which has very similar characteristics to the one of the Palestinian struggle. And one of Nelson Mandela's most well-known quotes is that the freedom of South Africa is not complete unless it's complemented and supplemented by that of Palestine. There's a very conscious interweaving of these two struggles after 1994.
South African, the ANC struggle for freedom and liberation in South Africa against apartheid. There had been a very strong connection with the PLO, with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and more generally with the movement for justice in Palestine, recognizing that what the Palestinian people were living under was another form of apartheid, of what the black and colored population of South Africa had witnessed for a very long time.
Palestinian people have to constantly carry identity documents. They can be stopped for a search at any time. They ride in different transport. They have different employment laws. They can't choose where they live. Their land can be dispossessed at any time with no compensation. Ask any black South African. This was our experience.
I went to Palestine in 2023. I found exactly the same experience, that I was an activist in the 80s against apartheid, but the kind of systemic division we saw was much worse than what we experienced.
In the occupied Palestinian territory, in East Jerusalem and the West Bank in particular, there are 750,000 Jewish Israeli settlers living on occupied land, enjoying full legal rights as an Israeli citizen, while the 3 million plus Palestinians in East Jerusalem and the West Bank lived either under a very inferior legal system for residency rights or having virtually no rights at all under an Israeli legal system. And it's this huge difference of two very unequal legal systems marked by the Israeli settlements, which is the basis of a lot of human rights violations in the OPT.
I receive numerous complaints every week from different countries around the world. Basically, housing is not just four walls and a roof, but housing means a place to live somewhere in safety and security with dignity. All apartheid systems are gross violations of the right to adequate housing, because the very idea of apartheid is built on spatial segregation. In the case of Israel, in the occupied territories, we know very well that there are roads for Palestinians and then there are roads for Israelis. And it's a very deep form of spatial segregation. In a report that I filed to the UN Human Rights Council, and I actually condemned Israel's action as a gross violation of the right to adequate housing and called it an apartheid regime.
Gıda hakkı açısından bakarsak Gazze'ye ya da Batı Şeria'ya ya da hepsini ele alırsak 3 ayrı yer biliyorsun, Gazze, Batı Şeria ve de Kudüs, Doğu Kudüs'te gıda giriş çıkışlarının kontrol altında olduğunu görüyoruz. Özellikle de Gazze'de 2007 yılından beri bloke edilmiş bir durumdan bahsediyoruz. Burada gıdanın Gazze'ye girmesi konusunda çok ciddi sorunlar yaşanıyor. İsrail bunu hep yıllarca kontrol altına aldı.
I had my first travel to Gaza in 1989. I worked as a doctor there. From 2006, I have been traveling regularly every year to Gaza. I go there every time there is bombing. So I've been working in Mustashfa al-Shifa Hospital during the bombing in 2006, 2009, 2012, 2014. A 10-year-old boy and one 10-year-old girl. She had a shrapnel inlet here with a large outlet, like a cauliflower, threatening her artery to the arm. She was pale, she was cold, she was in pain. They repaired the axillary artery and the blood could flow freely to her right arm. It was a moment of victory for life and a defeat of death.
After years of occupation, Hamas launched an unexpected operation against Israel on Saturday, October 7, 2023. Israel's reaction to the operation has been relentless. The Israeli bombardment, which started on October 7th, still continues. More than 42,000 people, mostly women and children, have been killed.
Güney Afrika'da Noel tatili genellikle 24'ünde başlar. Ben de Noel tatilinde Türkiye'de geçirmek üzere iznimi almıştım. Uçak biletimi de almıştım. Tam uçağa doğru gitmek üzereyken birdenbire editörümüzden bir mesaj aldık. Böyle bir dava açıldı şeklinde.
We engaged with a range of legal minds both domestically and internationally about what the approach should be.
Nous avons un dialogue depuis l'origine avec des avocats sud-africains et qui ont dit que c'est une démarche qui est excellente parce que maintenant le monde entier est saisi il faut parler du génocide.
There was quite rapidly a lot of discussion who could bring the case in the International Court of Justice, and ultimately it was South Africa that decided to bring the case.
It was important that we test international law, but also that we bring the cause of the people of Palestine to the global stage.
that's why we went what is called the Article 9 route, which is a contentious route going directly to the International Court of Justice. We made the proposal to Cabinet. The whole of Cabinet agreed almost immediately. There was no debate. The entire Cabinet was saying this should happen, it should happen immediately.
Davaya başvuru için de belli bir son süre vardı ve bu da yılın son günüydü. Bunun için Güney Afrika ekibi gerçekten de çok hummalı bir çalışma gerçekleştirdiler. Bakan Pandor'un tek başına çok büyük bir mücadele verdiğini görüyoruz.
We cannot ever have a situation where we say, this is your problem, you deal with it.
South Africa has filed an application at the UN's top court asking it to investigate Israel
We
for
start
allegedly...
in The Hague and the International Court of Justice there.
دعت وزيرة خارجية جنوب أفريقيا غريس نالي باندا.
رفعت جنوب أفريقيا دعوى قضائية ضد إسرائيل أمام محكمة العدل الدولية لتورطها بأعمال إبادة ضد الشعب الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة.
The case is brought on the basis of the Genocide Convention, under which there is jurisdiction given to the International Court of Justice over any member state that participates in the convention.
Üzerinde uzun müzakereler yapılan Soykırım Sözleşmesi, 2. Dünya Savaşı sonrasının en önemli metinlerinden biridir. Soykırım, genos ve sedere kelimelerinden oluşur. Yani bir grubu öldürmek, yok etmek.
The word genocide was coined by a man called Raphael Lemkin, who had suffered at the hands of the Germans when they invaded his country, Poland. He was instrumental in making this convention on genocide, and the convention was made largely in the context of the Holocaust of the Jews by the Germans.
It's more difficult politically because the Genocide Convention is associated with the Holocaust. And there's always a sense that how could you accuse Israelis of committing genocide?
We were very careful in looking at the various clauses of the convention and ensuring that when we present the case, we have evidence from the various descriptions of what constitutes genocide in the convention.
Il y a en 4 définitions la destruction complète de population, détruire les conditions d'existence, poser des souffrances physiques et psychiques. Le 4e concerne la maternité et les jeunes enfants. On a par exemple la nuit du 9 au 10 où il y a 400 morts. Les autres nuits, c'était déjà tout de suite 250 morts. Et on trouve tout de suite les attaques sur les hôpitaux. Le 8, vous avez le bombardement des canalisations d'eau. Mais depuis quand est-ce qu'on fait une guerre contre des canalisations d'eau? Dès les premiers jours, on voit qu'en fait, il y a quelque chose qui est nouveau. Il est clair que dès le 9 ou le 10 octobre, on n'est pas du tout sur un plan pour attaquer des objectifs militaires, mais on est sur un plan pour détruire le plus de civils, pour détruire leur environnement.
Statements by leaders of Israel who clearly said that Palestinian people are human animals, who said water, energy and food will be denied to them.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
They will be told, move to the south. They move, they are mowed down. Move to the north. They move, they are bombed with cluster bombs. All of this for us proves in very clear terms that there's an intention of genocide.
In the current case brought by South Africa, it is the entire state of Israel that is sort of in the dock, that has to account for its commission, its elite commission of genocide.
Please be seated. The court meets today and will meet tomorrow under Article 74, Paragraph 3 of the Rules of Court to hear the oral observations of the parties on the request for the indication of provisional measures, South Africa versus Israel.
The application places Israel's genocidal acts and omissions within the broader context of Israel's 75-year apartheid, 56-year occupation, and 16-year siege imposed on the Gaza Strip.
South Africa does not have to prove that genocidal acts have been or are being committed, but it does have to show that the Genocide Convention is in play.
As the UN Secretary General explained 5 weeks ago, the level of Israel's killing is so extensive that nowhere is safe in Gaza.
Sadly, the civilian suffering in warfare is not unique to Gaza.
South Africa is not alone in drawing attention to Israel's genocidal rhetoric against Palestinians in Gaza.
Urban warfare will always result in tragic deaths, harm, and damage. But in Gaza, these undesired outcomes are exacerbated because they are the desired outcomes of Hamas.
In the first 3 weeks alone, following 7 October, Israel deployed 6,000 bombs per week.
The applicant seeks to portray an image of Israel as a lawless state.
States parties to this convention are obliged not only to desist from genocidal acts, but also to prevent them.
It is Israel and its citizens who would risk irreparable harm if the request of South Africa were to be granted.
The first genocide in history, where its victims are broadcasting their own destruction in real time.
South Africa's lawsuit against Israel has captured global attention.
This morning, Israel thanking the US for using its veto, halting a Security Council resolution for an immediate ceasefire.
When I became Minister of International Relations and Cooperation in South Africa, it didn't take many months for me to become aware that international law and international institutions do not operate on a basis where we are all recognized as equally sovereign and equally human.
From what we've seen, the powerful countries choose to ignore them. The powerful countries, they contest ICJ's jurisdiction. After the chief prosecutor at ICC has issued arrest warrants for Israeli senior leaders, it has been heavily criticized.
I've had some elected leaders speak to me and be very blunt. This court is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin, was what one senior leader told me. We don't view it like that.
What has happened is that the world, particularly the most powerful in the world, have designed institutions of international law in a manner that gives them some peremptory oversight over them and an ability to direct them as to where they should look for abuse of human rights.
Since the Nakba, Israel has enjoyed total impunity from the West. They have never been taken to court. They have never been held accountable.
Quienes estén a favor del proyecto de resolución que figura en el documento S/2023-970, sírvanse levantar la mano. En contra.
There is no other member of the United Nations who have had so many votes and decisions and demands on them that they have broken and violated than Israel.
Israël refuse tout cessez-le-feu. Ils veulent attaquer Rafah, où ils ont concentré 1,5 million de la population et des gens qui sont tous en état de sous-alimentation. Le carnage est là et tous les jours montrent que les dirigeants israéliens disent le droit c'est fait pour les autres, c'est pas fait pour nous.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands.
I think what's interesting actually about this is that it shows that there isn't really a coherent Western position on what's happening in Gaza. In fact, the EU member states are quite split in the way that they see this.
Israel is a democracy attacked by Hamas, a terrorist organization. Israel has the right of self-defense.
Countries have taken different positions on the case brought by South Africa. So we see immense support for South Africa around the so-called Global South, whereas many countries in the West have stated that they oppose South Africa bringing the case.
Que mañana se romperán las relaciones diplomáticas con el Estado de Israel. ¡Viva!
España va a intervenir en el procedimiento del Tribunal Internacional de Justicia iniciado por Sudáfrica ante la situación en Gaza.
İsrail'in işlediği suçların cezasız kalmaması için Güney Afrika Cumhuriyeti tarafından Uluslararası Adalet Divanı'nda açılan davayı destekliyoruz.
We should all be thankful to the Republic of South Africa for standing up and saying enough is enough.
From what we've seen recently is that even if the country's governments are against Palestine or in favor of Israel, we have seen a growing interest from the masses, from the ordinary people, especially from young people, from students. Even in the US, you saw Howard's example where they started encampment protests, and after that they've spread across different parts of Europe.
I want activism to be a role for the young people to take, like we have seen now with the student intifada, where the young people say, this is not the world we want.
As protests continue all over the world, some countries have decided to support South Africa's case.
It's very encouraging that after so many years, there is this new phenomenon that's taking place of cases being brought, that states are joining in those cases to support South Africa, that in a sense acts on behalf of the whole of the international community that shows concern with the suffering of the people of Palestine. International opinion is changing against Israel.
Güney Afrika'nın bu davayı açmadaki öncülüğü çok önemliydi ve bunu izleyen süreçte Kolombiya, Nikaragua, Mısır, Türkiye gibi ülkelerde dava sürecine katılım gösterdiler. Diğer ülkelerin konuyu bir adım daha ileri taşıdığını gördük. Nikaragua'nın davaya müdahil olmasının yanı sıra İsrail'e silah satışı yapan Almanya'ya da ek bir dava açması bu konudaki en önemli gelişmelerden bir tanesiydi. Nikaragua'nın bu süreçteki en aktif isimlerinden bir tanesi de Nikaragua'nın Lahey Büyükelçisi Carlos Jose oldu.
What was happening in Palestine against the Palestinian people was horrible, and Nicaragua felt that we needed something. In January, we received the news that Germany had made a statement that they were going to intervene in the case in favor of Israel. So our position at that moment was, well, we should intervene immediately, which is what Nicaragua did. We filed an application requesting intervention in the case.
Germany rejects the allegations made by Nicaragua today. Germany does not and never did violate the Genocide Convention nor international humanitarian law, neither directly nor indirectly.
We feel that countries like Germany will respect the court, and we have hopes that with what the court decides, it's going to be accepted, and responsibly Germany is going to accept what the court is going to say.
L'Allemagne est le deuxième exportateur d'armes et là accepté la clause du traité en disant s'il y a génocide, je me soumets à la juridiction. Et donc le Nicaragua dit sans vous, ça serait différent.
When I saw the interviews of very important people were saying, well, no, well, you know, genocide is difficult and we don't think that genocide is happening or whatever. And then the impression of people listening to that was, well, then Israel is not doing anything. And that's not true. Even from Netanyahu down, all the government officials in Israel have made it very clear that they want to exterminate all the Palestinian people.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה.
Türkiye'de tabii bu dava sürecinde en başından beri Güney Afrika'nın bu duruşunu destekleyen ülkelerin başında geldi. Türkiye'nin davaya katılım sürecini yöneten ve buradaki ekibi hazırlayan da Türkiye Büyük Millet Meclisi Adalet Komisyonu Başkanı Profesör Doktor Cüneyt Yüksel oldu. Türkiye Ağustos 2024 itibariyle bu davaya müdahil ülkeler arasında yer aldı.
İsrail 7 Ekim 2023 tarihinden bir hafta sonra El Ehli Baptist Hastanesi'ni bombalamıştı ve orada 500 sivil ölmüştü.
In the evening, after we finished one of the surgeries, we heard a missile screech following by a huge explosion. As a result of the explosion, part of the ceiling of the operating room fell. We could see bodies of children piled up.
İsrail'in bu yapmış olduğu saldırılar artık soykırım seviyesine geldiğini, zaten hastanelerin bombalanması, okulların bombalanması, ibadethanelerin bombalanması, sivillerin öldürülmesi, aç bırakılması, bütün bunlar doğrudan savaş suçu, insanlığa karşı suçlar teşkil etmekte.
ايش بدهم فينا كده كنا قاعدين في امان في المدرسه ايش بدهم فينا كنا قاعدين ولكن هلا كلهم نزلوا لقيناهم كلهم مرميين اشلاء شوف كيف الدم واللعب كيف كان مرمى على الارض.
İsrail'e karşı hukuki olarak neler yapacağımızı konuştuk. Uluslararası Adalet Divanı'na Güney Afrika'nın İsrail'e karşı açmış olduğu bu soykırım davasına Türkiye olarak müdahil olacağız. Güney Afrika'ya delil sunma açısından özellikle biliyorsunuz Anadolu Ajansımızın çekmiş olduğu videolar ve fotoğrafları delil olarak Güney Afrika'ya sunduk ve gerçekten de Güney Afrika duruşmada bizim vermiş olduğumuz delilleri kullandı.
We welcome the support. Government of South Africa would welcome it as well. As the South, we are now setting a new global geopolitics in place. We are setting in motion a geopolitics that looks to the interest of others, rather than the current selfish geopolitical domain, which is more about my interest as a powerful country rather than the interest of all humanity.
On the 26th of January, the International Court of Justice issued a preliminary ruling for the first time.
The court indicates the following provisional measures. 1. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall, in accordance with its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention. Mahkeme bir dizi ihtiyati tedbire karar verdi. Ancak doğrudan bir ateşkes çağrısında bulunmadı mahkeme. Sadece insani krizin azaltılmasına yönelik gerekli tedbirlerin alınmasını İsrail'den istedi.
Je prends un petit exemple. Imaginez que vous êtes le maire d'une grande ville et puis il y a un immeuble qui est fragile. On a entendu que ça craquait. Alors, on ne sait pas s'il va s'écrouler, mais il y a un risque, donc on le fait évacuer.
In this case, given the urgency of the situation, given the extent of the conflict, and also given the barbarity of the crimes that are being perpetrated against the people of Palestine by the Israeli military, then it was felt that provisional measures would be a way to legally condemn the Israeli military action against the people of Gaza.
Despite the court issuing 2 additional preliminary rulings, Israel continues its attacks on Gaza.
Bugüne geldiğimizde aradan geçen süreçte Güney Afrika Cumhuriyeti 3 farklı ihtiyati tedbir kararını aldırdı. Çünkü görüldüğü üzere sahada da bizim de edindiğimiz intiba bu ihtiyati tedbir kararlarına ilişkin İsrail raporlarını göremediğimiz için bunların yerine getirilmediği yönünde güçlü bir şüphe var.
Le droit était plutôt l'affaire de l'Occident. Il y a tous les États qu'on appelle en quelque sorte le Grand Sud, qu'on aurait appelé auparavant les non-alignés, ou ceux qui ne sont pas dans le club dirigeant. Et qu'est-ce qu'ils font ceux-là? Ils ont tous compris ce qui se passe. C'est-à-dire que c'est un génocide. C'est-à-dire qu'on dit à ce peuple, tu dois dégager de chez toi et je vais prendre ta place.
This is not about South Africa. This is actually about the people of Palestine who have been waging a struggle for 75 years. Our concern is that the people of Palestine, just like us today, as South Africans, they deserve self-determination, they deserve democracy, they deserve human dignity, they deserve freedom and human rights. That is all we're asking for.